This week, we're going to go through the Bassmaster Elite's 2023 season, and I'm going to hit the boys with a little bit of potential controversy.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad.
Get on that.
It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's going to be a bad day.
What is going on, listeners? Here we are back, episode number 4 of the OneCast. I'm Pete. Together, as always, I have Ben and Trey to my right, your left.
What's going on, folks?
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Y'all doing good?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Of course, we want to start off by giving a shout out to our first sponsor, OneCast Fishing. Without them, this whole thing would not be possible. So head over to onecastfishing.com. Check out the entire line of snagless jigs, the hot ticket item of the long neck hooks, and go ahead and use code THE1CAST to save 10% off your order. Give them a try. Catch more fish, lose less tackle. So, yeah. Boys, excited? 2023 season's getting ready to kick off here in just about 2 months. Well, we're just before Christmas. When we're recording this, y'all are going to get it a little bit later, but yeah, excited. So we're going to jump right into it. Stop number 1 for the Bassmaster Elites, Lake Okeechobee, February 16th and 19th.
The big O.
Yeah.
All right. Odds are that Scott Martin takes it. That's his home lake.
It's his home lake. I mean, it has been a while since, when's the last time somebody won on their home lake? It's been a while.
Last year, Lake Fork.
Well,
All right. Outside of Lee Livingston, Lake Fork.
I mean,
before those two events, it had been quite a while.
Guys usually do well. What's interesting with Florida, it's always a conversation. It seems like the Florida guys, a lot of times don't do well down there early in the year. I remember that discussion last year at St. John's and the Harris Chain. There was it's been several years ago, but the Johnston boys, I think it was, where the Canadians came down and wrecked them on the Harris Chain. This was like 8-9 years ago, probably. And so it'll be interesting. He's probably going to be the favorite. You know, it's fantasy bass fishing. He's going to be one of the big heavy hitters for that. So
yeah, he'd have to be.
I'm going to go with one of the Johnstons. Honestly, I think those northern anglers are able to dominate in those Florida bodies of water. They've been proving it, and it sets up a lot like the northern fisheries, at least from the vegetation perspective. So I'm going to go with one of the Johnstons.
Interesting. Yeah, you have to look at a guy like Cox. John Cox has to be in the conversation. It's going to be a shallow water tournament. Those fish should be up on the beds. It is a little bit early, but Florida's stayed warm. They have a little cold front right now, but generally speaking, they haven't been hit with too much cold so far this year. If January stays on trend as it has been, February, they got this 1 week. Everybody's cold this week. It really might be the time. They have fished it 22 times previously. Last time was in 2017, and Tim Horton won that with 83.5.
Mm-hmm.
who went last year? The Opens or Toyota Series or
Toyota Series, I believe, fished Okeechobee.
Yeah.
Somebody went last year for one of the qualifying events. I'm excited for it. I've been to Okeechobee. It was probably 2016, 17, and I was down there about that time, mid to late February. So when I was down there, there wasn't a lot of spawning fish. I ended up catching in the Indian Prairie Canal, but typically that whole western side, the southwest side, is the spot that most of the field goes to.
Right.
When you'll have a couple guys on the north side, maybe some on the east side, but pretty much that southwest side is where most of the guys were fishing. It's got Kissimmee grass, hydrilla. It changes every year down there. I don't know what the hurricane did, if anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I haven't been keeping up, so it'll be interesting, but should be a great event, and should be a
that lake
slugfest.
is so big. There's so many different ways they could potentially catch them that it's going to play to a lot of guys. You look at a guy like John Cruz. If they're not spawning yet, and there's a little bit more of an offshore, he's proven that pre-spawn in Florida, he's really good. Second place 2 years ago on the St. John's. He won it last year. He's always right there if it's pre-spawn. He's definitely strong in that. So it's going to be an interesting one.
The key is, I can tell you the key right now, clean water.
Yeah.
Clean water.
That's why everyone fishes the north and the west side of the lake. Is that correct?
So I have never been on the east side or the south side. I've stuck basically where the field's gone because I know that's where the fish are. there's just so much grass, and the grass changes. It depends on the wind and the water level and how that water is filtered through and how much grass is there. So beyond that, I don't really know why. But find clean water, unlike the Harris chain, where it seems to be muddier all over the place and a lot of the water or stained. You can have, I found areas of hydrilla down there that was 6-7 feet to the bottom. You could see the bottom and see beds, but 10 miles, I don't remember how big, but 10-15 minute boat ride up, I mean, it was chocolate milk.
Yeah.
And I had no bites in the chocolate milk. So find clean water. That's going to be the key.
Yeah.
I think the last time I saw anything on Okeechobee, I think it was a FLW tour event. Wasn't that where we lost, the industry lost an angler down there?
Yeah, that was, 3 years ago?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had that cold front, and because that lake is so wide and shallow, that wind kicks up. It can get rough out
That was
there.
a co-angler, correct?
I think so. I just
Yeah.
know I saw the footage of the boat kind of washed up. They found it like a day or two later or something like that, and it was banging against some rocks or something. And a serious, unfortunate situation. I think the angler that passed away was a veteran as well. I think he served in the military. I think he was potentially a special forces group member. So, but I'm gonna definitely take one of the Johnstons, probably Corey Johnston, on that lake. But I would like to see Kyle Welcher host one of those blue trophies. And I don't know if you guys follow him a lot, but Alabama angler, really good shallow water fisherman, professional poker player in his previous life. So I'd like to see him do well. And then from the rookie side of the house, it really sets up to be something like Keith Poche's like wheelhouse as well, all that shallow water fishing and stuff. So I don't know. It should be really interesting this year.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one. And then a week later, they just slide a little bit north to Lake Seminole.
Back to back. Well, it's a little more. Okeechobee is so far down there.
I say slide, yeah, you're right.
It's not that much of a slide.
Okeechobee's pretty. Florida, if you've never had the pleasure of driving north to south, that's not across Florida, down Florida, it is the most miserable state I've ever driven across.
So I'll put it this way.
It's I-95.
It's
It's
just
95. It's garbage.
straight,
But it's about 12 hours
and
from
it
here.
is forever.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah,
Flat, just boring.
Yeah. Lake Seminole, they fished it 15 times throughout bass history. Last time was 2014, and Brett Height won that one with almost a century belt, 97.10. And fun fact about this lake that I learned doing a little research, Lake Seminole is considered the best sight fishing spawn lake in the United States.
Is it really?
Yes.
Time to make a trip down there.
February 23rd to 26th, probably going to turn into one of those types of tournaments.
If I had to bet, to me, if I would predict there would be more spawning fish caught in Seminole
Than
Okeechobee.
I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. Another week of warm weather if it stays, traditional. But yeah, that time in 2014, it was the same time frame they were there in almost a century belt, and from what I could see, it was mostly a sight fishing tournament. So,
Well, they got 37,000 acres of lake to fish, so it's not a very big lake, but there's a lot of shoreline. It's skinny. Should be pretty interesting. Who do you think's going to win that one? Who's your top take?
that's another one that I think you got to look at a guy like John Cox.
Yeah.
John, I mean, he's right there. He's going to hit one of these right. He almost had it at St. John's last year. Kind of lost it on the third day. Or I guess it would have been the championship day. That shallow bite he had, the weather changed, and that was pretty much gone. And, John was able to stay on the fish he had and carry that one wire to wire. But if it is a sight fishing shallow water tournament, he's got to be one of the guys at the top of the list, and I'd have to put him in a favorite. Florida guy, knows that part of the country. It kind of sets up really well for what he does on any tournament. So for it to actually be a shallow water sight fishing tournament, yeah, that'd have to be mine.
I think we're going to see a curveball thrown at one of these times. Like you always pick the Florida favorites for Florida or maybe a northern angler, but let it be somebody just out of the blue. It'd be pretty interesting, and we'll definitely do a recap and talk about it.
Who would surprise you the most?
Somebody, let's see, who's in the field that just kind of you just don't hear getting up there right now. I'm trying to think. You put me on the spot.
I know.
Let's see. Man, I don't know.
Who would be your favorite?
Who would be my favorite for Seminole?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see like Keith Poche win, since he made it and he dealt with all that just malarkey.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw that word out there. Word of the day. The controversy that he dealt with. I'd like to see him hoist a blue trophy just because it sets up in his style. But I mean, you never know, man. Like you got guys like Patrick Walters who are just live scope, forward facing sonar gurus who still tend to do really well down in Florida, right? I don't know how he is at sight fishing. Right. Yeah. Those offshore anglers, everyone's an offshore angler, but those true offshore anglers, the northern smallmouth guys that seem to do well down in Florida, they wouldn't surprise me. But guys like Patrick Walters, who else is out there on forward facing sonar all the time? I can't think of anybody right now, but
someone, Seth Fighter, I think could perform pretty well.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, if you look at some of the way he's from up north and the way he fishes, and I'm really basing this on, so 2 years ago, he won the Angler of the Year. Mm-hmm. And then last year, he kind of fell back a little bit to the pack. I think there's just some motivation. He's gonna, turn the game up a little bit again. And, I think really compete very strong this year. Yeah. So it could set up well for him. What's interesting about sight fishing tournaments, I think, is that, I mean, everyone at that level is a good sight fisherman, but some are obviously better than others, and they're from lakes and they grow up fishing lakes that it's more conducive to go that way. But there is some luck involved with that. You just got to pull in the right creek, and those fish move up at the right time, and it could be pretty much anybody.
Yeah, it really can.
I mean, you definitely can't discount Polinek. I mean, he's great at sight fishing and great at shallow water, but you got Mr. Megabucks back on tour this year, Larry Nixon. He's a shallow water angler through and through. Hopefully he does well this year, but I mean, a shallow water game like that could set up in his favor as well.
I mean, you got Rick too. Throw that big spinnerbait.
If either one of them can still see the fish, then it could play in their favor.
That's true.
No
That's
disrespect,
true.
but
hey, if they can't see them, then they can hook them anywhere, right?
True, that is true. But yeah, you're right. You got to watch out for them guys. They're obviously legends.
They're legends for
Nixon
a reason.
was the first $1 million man in bass, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting seeing him back out there. Yep. And everybody always says what would happen if some of these legend guys fish with the modern day guys. So
yeah,
we're gonna get to see it some this year.
We're gonna find out. So after Seminole,
I'm gonna stop you here. After Seminole is the Classic.
Oh,
right, Tennessee River, the Bassmaster Classic, the largest event in bass fishing,
and we'll be there.
And it's confirmed that it's the largest event in bass fishing.
Yeah.
Nothing touches it. You want to know? You want to know why it is now confirmed? And here's the little bit of where I can see.
Because Google said so?
No, it's coming. Here's where the controversy is coming. Who does Jacob Wheeler fish for? What tour does he fish? Just tell me. Don't say anything else.
But he's BPT. Yeah. Okay, I know where you're going. I saw
What did he just design? A boat.
Yeah,
Icon Boats, bass boat. Where's it being released where it's going to get the most publicity?
The Classic.
Bassmaster Classic.
I just saw that on Facebook. I didn't even really read into it. That's
think about it that way though. That is, you want the most exposure for the bass fishing industry. You're not going to your tour's title event, Redcrest. You're going to the Classic, baby.
Which Redcrest is actually 2 weeks prior to the Classic.
Before the Bassmaster Classic.
I saw that. I was questioning. Okay, that's interesting. He's going to the Classic to launch it. But you're right, with Redcrest being before. Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know he was the brainchild behind that boat either. It's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, the Classic back on the Tennessee River. Go ahead, Ben. We'll let you.
I mean, so they were there 2 years ago, or 2019. Ott4 won that. It'll be interesting. This could very much end up being a cold weather tournament. I know it's still late March, but Eastern Tennessee, you just being there in the mountains, you just never know. I don't like cold weather Classic tournaments. I want to see a lot of fish catches and the big ones. So we'll find out. I know last time, expo wise, because we're going to be there this year, Knoxville had the record, and then last year it was broken, and hopefully they'll break it again this year. It is central location for a lot of anglers to come in there, for the bass fishing world. But it should be a great event.
If you're somewhat close to Knoxville, go check it out. It's a free event to get in. Lots of vendors there. We'll be there. You can come say hi, and check out the snagless jigs that OneCast, our sponsor, has. We'll be there with them. It's going to be a good time. Lots to see, lots of people to meet. It's a huge event in the industry. You'll have MLF guys there.
Everybody's
just representing their sponsors. Yeah, everybody's there. So if you're close or you've been thinking about it, that is the one to go to, in my opinion, because everything is right there. The Expo Center and the launch are in the same building.
It's all downtown.
It's all downtown. It's all within walking distance.
So I would actually say it's probably the coolest location that they've done it that I can think of, because it's all right downtown, in the heart of the city. You don't have to drive anywhere. Last year they're at Hartwell.
Yep.
It was like 45 minutes, I think.
45 minutes between the launch and where they did the
Greenville,
did the weigh-in.
Which is fine. And obviously, it works great, but it's got to just be a different dynamic to just.
It is.
You
It
can
just
walk
makes
right
things
there,
easier.
and there's the launch, and then you can walk right over the expo, and when they're done, right in the afternoon, and they're coming in all in downtown.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be a good event.
Who's your favorite?
Man, it's gonna be an interesting year this year because you don't have the river rat Ott Defoe out there.
Yep.
He really kind of that was a cold weather tournament in 2019. It was pretty cold. Slow crankbait bite, if I remember correctly.
What about John Cruz?
Yeah.
Now it's not a.
No, he didn't qualify.
Oh, he didn't.
No, unfortunately.
I thought he did. I thought he backdoored into it. Oh well, I guess not him. It's also not a tidal fishery, so it's not a tidal river system, so a little bit different than I think he grew up and used to, and how he did on the St. John's last year.
It'll be an interesting one.
I'd like to see it. Did Jochimson, did he qualify for it?
I'd have to go double check.
Yeah, we'd have to check.
We'll have more on the classic. We
Yeah.
don't have to dive deep into it now before. But
And I'm gonna, lay my pick out for that probably after the first two events, because just to see how the guys are performing.
I want to at least see the first event. That everybody steps their game up at the classic, but
Yeah.
if you fish and you tournament fish, or even fun fish, you'll know there's days and years where you fish better than there's others.
So the classic is in, what was it, March 23rd?
March 24th to 26th.
Yep. And then we move on to what?
Lake Murray. Where 9 times they fished it.
Yep.
The last major event at Lake Murray was in 1991, and it is very hard to find any records from what occurred there. But they did back when they used to hold elite events that weren't considered major events. They had the Evan Williams Carolina Clash there in 2011, and Casey Ashley won that with 61-3.
Have you guys ever been to Murray?
I've never fished it. I've been there.
So I fished it one time. It was our club bass tournament, probably 2017, 18. And it's a very much a different lake than what I'm used to fishing. Number one, it's a blueback herring lake.
Yep.
A lot of spotted bass in there. The reason why I think bass hadn't gone there for a long time is because there was no grass. They killed all the grass. When I was fishing there was a little bit of grass growing off the bottom and like 4 to 5 foot, maybe up like 6 or 7 inches. And I ended up cashing a check because I was throwing a drop shot, ripping it through the grass and catching little fish. It was a tough for us in November, as it always is. I'm not going to say the weight because I'm not proud of it. I got skunked the first day and still cashed a check. So you can tell how that tournament
6
went.
pounds. 6 pounds.
You can tell how that tournament went. But this will be, I think, a live scope event, even though, mid to late April's prime spawn here in the in the Carolina region, especially here in North Carolina. It's a little bit south. It's in Columbia, about 3 hours south. But with the spotted bass, because they spawn earlier, blueback herring mixing in there, I think it's going to be a live scope event. And someone like Cody Huff, that's his bread and butter. I could see him doing very well in this event.
I think that you're going to see, because those largemouth get offshore and they school on those blueback herring too, and they chase them around. And I think you're going to see a lot of topwater action. I think it's gonna be exciting. I think somebody's going to find something special offshore. They're going to be able to chase those post spawn fish around, and they're going to be able to catch some big.
Well, they're going to be chasing the largemouth should be spawning.
And there's one topwater bait that's king down there, and I can't remember the name. It's like a big spook.
It's like a big pencil popper.
Yeah.
Yeah, big pencil poppers is what they are.
And I forget the name brand.
I know which one you're talking about.
And so if you remember what it is, put it in the comments down below.
Yeah.
Because before I went down there to fish it, I was like, I got to get some
I
of
got to
these.
get 5 of these.
I couldn't find them anywhere. They were hard to come by. So that didn't work for me. But I could see that, whatever that big pencil popper spook type of bait is.
I got one on the wall. I think I know what you're talking about. We'll bring it in.
Yeah, Murray will be live. I agree. Live. The spots are going to play a role, but I think whoever wins is going to find largemouth on beds. They're going to, because that time of year they should be on beds.
And it's a big lake. They can go up the river. I mean, they could run.
There aren't as many largemouth as there used to be, as we know. Those spots tend to push a lot of largemouth out. But if a guy can get on a creek or something that's got some bedded largemouth, they could run away with it.
And hopefully we can get down there to the weigh-in for Lake Murray.
Yeah,
but if not, there's the next event, which is about the same distance for us, and that's Santee Cooper.
Yep, moving just a little bit west.
That's the next week too. They're going back to back.
Yeah.
So they're going back to back for the first two.
Yep.
And then they're going back to back for stops 3 and 4 after the Classic. And
Murray and Santee Cooper are completely different fishing.
Completely.
I mean, they're night and day. It's like going from, I don't know, a clear water table rock type situation down into the mud. Yep. You know what I mean? So,
and Santee's going to, 27th, 23rd, 27th to 30th of April.
Yeah.
So they fished it 12 times in their past. The elites have. They fished it last year, but that was the first time in several years they had gone there. There was 2 century belts when they fished it last year, which I believe they fished in March. It was a sight fishing tournament for a lot of those guys in the southern end. They had actually probably finished mostly spawning on the upper end during practice, which kind of messed some guys up. But Drew Cook won with 105 pounds.
Drew Cook put on an absolute clinic on how to sight fish. I learned so much watching that event about sight fishing. It was unbelievable, the things that he was doing.
How many packs of those fighting toads did you buy?
I didn't buy it. I've got my own confidence baits with bedfish, but they're a great bait.
They are a great bait. He has a fantastic series out there on YouTube, and you guys can check it out too. But that's somebody, the 2 Drews, I forgot about them. The Drew Cook, the Drew Bentons. When you look at those guys in areas like Santee Cooper, that flip and pitch and bite, punch and bite and stuff like that, those guys are dominators, man. Both of them are amazing. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Drews are in the running, the Pollinecks in the running. Caleb Kufal, we got there. He got a century belt last year as well.
103 pounds.
Imagine 103 pounds and not winning.
Unbelievable.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, to be a bridesmaid like that, like you should still be proud of yourself.
Oh,
103 pounds. And then, guys like Brandon Lester, man. I mean, second in AOY for the year. Like he's deadly, you know what I'm saying? And then obviously you got the OG Greg Hackney, who's really good on that body of water as well. So it should be a slugfest down in Santee.
I'm going to go out and say I don't think there'll be a century belt this year.
Don't think so?
They're fishing a little bit later. I mean, as you know, in this part of the country, and Santee's usually a few weeks ahead of us because it is about 3-4 hours south, depending on where you're at in the lake, is that there's going to be more post spawners. There'll probably be a couple spawners left maybe, but if most of the spawn was done, and of course the weather's going to change and we don't know how it's going to set up, but the spawn was done pretty much on the upper end with the exception of fry garters last year, and that was, I believe, early March, early to mid-March, and we're a month and a half later this year. I suspect it's going to be more of a post-spawn gaining, and we'll probably get in the 90s. Yeah, I think we'll get in the 90-pound range, but I don't think it's going to set up necessarily for a century belt type of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, those fish are probably still going to be fairly shallow post-spawn, feeding on the bluegill now coming up to spawn. Just trying to put weight back on. So I still think the shallow water guys.
Not lead weight back on. No, they'll put weight back on.
No, I completely agree. It'll be mostly shallow water. Some of those fish will have pulled off, but I just don't think the weight will be there.
Yeah. That's my favorite time to fish.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can go out there and
they're hungry.
Drag a jig. You can bang a spinner bait around. You can do just about anything you want and catch fish.
That's right.
And it's going to be a really fun one to watch. A really fun one. So that takes us through the first 4 events plus the Classic, which isn't a points event, so they don't count it. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back, and we'll get the second half of the season, the next 5 events.
All right, folks, welcome back. Here we go.
Damn.
Did I yell at everyone?
Let's bring the liveliness, and Trey's yelling.
We're woke up now.
Yeah. Yeah. Bassmaster Elite schedule review.
Send it.
Ben's favorite body of water is on this second half. Just
no, it is not
there. But yeah, so stop 5, Lay Lake. It's a lake they've fished 5 times, 4 of those being Classic. It's the closest lake to Bass headquarters. When I was doing my little research, I'm guessing that's why they've had 4 Classics there.
Yep.
Last one was 2010. None other than KVD.
Kevin Van Dam
won that one.
That was number 3 of 4. I think he won in 11 too.
Yep. 51-6 won that one.
Yep.
But that's a 3-day event too, so you got to keep that in mind. So
True.
that's 15 pounds. That's over 15 pounds a day. So it's not a terrible body of water. Of course, this was over a decade ago, so things change a lot. But you add another 17 pounds of that, roughly, you're looking at what's that? 68 pounds.
Yeah. I don't know a whole lot about Lay Lake.
I don't either.
Trey looked some facts up, but
it doesn't look like it's a very big lake, to be honest with you, at least from what I could see, like 12,000 acres. I don't even know if that sounds right. 12,000 acres sounds really tiny.
That's smaller than Jordan.
That's smaller than Jordan Lake, North Carolina. But it's long and skinny. And it sets up like a river, at least from what the map shows. I don't have any experience on that body of water whatsoever, but
it's in Alabama. It's probably a river lake, so there's going to be spots.
Is it? I think it's part of the Coosa, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it is part of the Coosa River chain. Right. So,
hey, you Lay Lake guys, drop it down. What's the intel for it down there?
Give us the G2 on Lay Lake.
Comment YouTube if you're on podcast listening. Go to our Facebook or something. Let us know, because might be somewhere we need to go fish.
That's true. And honestly, in the comment section too, like if you have experience on Lay Lake, like let us know what they bite. I mean, don't send us your waypoints or anything.
Like if you want to,
but what do they bite down there? Like, what's the deal? I'm assuming topwater, jerk baits, drop shots, the standard stuff that they bite on any lake. But it'll be interesting to see what it looks like in May.
And it should be post spawn.
Yeah. Yep. I bet you Morning Dawn.
No.
Plays a role.
You don't say.
I bet you a Morning Dawn soft plastic.
What about green pumpkin?
Potentially, but spots in that Morning Dawn.
Black and blue?
I didn't believe it, man. I spent some time on some of the spot lakes here in North Carolina this past year with club events and stuff, and I hadn't really thrown that Morning Dawn color a whole lot. But them spots, like, I could drop shot a green pumpkin at them and maybe get one or two. You drop that dang Morning Dawn color, and the whole school's trying to eat it at one. It was incredible. Something about that purple, pink, blue hue.
I've got a jerkbait in that color. A mega bass, I think, yeah.
Honestly, that Morning Dawn color works on every body of water that I've ever went to. I only have like 4 different colors in drop shot rigs. And the Morning Dawn, green pumpkin with some chartreuse. And then if I'm feeling froggy, we'll go with like a black and silver color, like a more natural shad color. So, but yeah, it should be interesting.
And without any recent history of Lay Lake, I like to see how they do. I really have no idea, no expectations for that. That is not true for this next lake.
Well, I'm hoping,
or next location.
Before we move on from Lay Lake, I'm hoping Canterbury, because he's a Coosa River guy. I'd like to see him put a blue trophy up. So that'd be pretty cool to see somebody win close to home. So, but yeah, moving on to your favorite body of water.
Absolutely, Ben is the most excited for this next event.
I absolutely hate this choice for stop number 6 for the elites. That's the Sabine River. It's in June. I don't think it's that great of a fishery. So they went there in 2021, which is just 2 years ago. Then now they went in April. The winning weight was 43 pounds over 4 days. So that's
12 pounds,
11 pounds a day,
11 pounds.
Right? Under 11 pounds a day.
11 pounds, yeah.
And then in 2018, they went there, and I think Swindle was first and Hackney was second, or vice versa. I know Poche was in the top 4 or 5.
It was like 48 pounds.
It was like 48, then 45, then 43, which again, 12 pounds a day is what won the tournament. And I hate that they go here. It's a largemouth. There's not a lot of weight. It's a grind every time they go there. I have no problem going to bodies of water where the weights will be low or the weights are going to be close. Spotted lakes, even smallmouth lakes, right? The weights are really close and they may not be very high in some places, but there's a lot of action. It's just a grind. And to me, every time I've seen them in the Sabine River, it's not a lot of fun to watch. I hate this choice.
Do you double hate it? Do you loathe entirely?
I've been saying this, like, quit going to the Sabine River.
You're not the only one that's been saying that. There's a lot of people that say that. I'm with you. Like, grinding for 12 pounds a day, that's not calling fish. That's not catching 100 fish. That's grinding to catch 5 for 12.
If you get 12 pounds and you catch 100 fish a day, that's a completely different story, mindset. Watching it on TV or streaming, It's just different than
As a spectator, there's nothing exciting about
As
it.
a spectator, no. Probably for the host community, it brings a lot of money into the local towns and stuff. But for two reasons, I like it. One, it's anybody's game, right? Anybody's game in that deal because it's shallow water fishing. You got to find where fish are living. Two, the techniques that guys are using, not just with baits, but we talked about it earlier during the break. Look what Jason Christie did in 21, right? Where he was literally going to the gas pump and jacking his boat up, at least from what the interview showed, and like trying to at least get every ounce of gas out of his boat or into his boat so he could run as far as possible. I think it's just one of those things like, yeah, you're grinding for 12 pounds a day, but man, you're proud of 12 pounds a day, right? So, I mean, I see it both ways, right? Like from a spectator perspective, like it kind of stinks to watch that, but from the angler perspective and putting like tips and tricks and techniques that you wouldn't on any other body of water into it, I think it makes it for an interesting tournament.
I'll push back a little bit. I understand the strategy and all involved. And on day one blast off, yes, it's anybody's game. You start talking day 3 or 4 and you're back 4 or 5 pounds.
Then it's your game.
No,
you're not making 4 or 5 pounds.
Like
you're done.
The lake record is 6.8 pounds for a largemouth, or I say lake river
Giant.
record. That is from the Texas Park and Wildlife. 6.8 pounds. That was in 2018. There are not a lot of 4 or 5 pound fish in this body of water.
There's not many tournaments you can lose on day one. You can absolutely take yourself out of the Sabine River on day one.
Yeah, but you could also lose it on day 2 or 3 too. You come in with no fish and you're the tournament leader with 6 to 8 pounds or whatever the case may be, and the next guy goes out and crushes. He gets that.
What I would hate about it, fishing tournaments, is there's zero room for error.
Right. Exactly.
Like not even zero room for error. There's no way to make weight up, and that to me makes it not fun for an angler and not fun for you. You're not making weight up
Because we love seeing
if
the
a guy
comebacks.
comes out with a 5-point lead on day 2, you might as well just give him the blue trophy, because unless he somehow zeros or his boat blows up, you're probably not catching him.
I'm hoping during this event we see something like crazy, like that kicker fish that's caught on day 3 that takes
What, a 5-pounder?
Yeah, or something like that. It takes the person sitting in 15th all the way up to first or whatever the case may be. I just think it makes.
And you're right. If someone lands that good fish,
right,
yes, they can come back from behind. I guess my point is there's just not a lot of those to go around. So to keep that positive mindset, like all you need is just one fish. You start thinking some of the Florida lakes or even smallmouth lakes where most of the fish are all 3 pounds, but there are a good number of 5 and 6 pounders up there. You just have to find that one in the school. Like it makes it a lot harder, So I'm just not a big fan of it as a spectator. There's a lot of strategy involved, right? I think it's a very technical event. You have to be on your P's and Q's and dialed in the entire time, which makes for a different type of competition and a different type of challenge and judge, right, of who the best angler is. But I'm just not a fan of the
name of the game for the Sabine River is mental agility and resiliency. I think that's really going to be the big factor is who's going to let it get to their heads and who's going to grind it out. And then we move on.
The one thing I think the Sabine River proves is not everything's bigger in Texas. So next we're going to Lake St. Clair in Michigan.
Where the body of water is very big.
So we're going from pretty much solely a largemouth dink fishery in Sabine to a lake that I grew up fishing a lot. And what I think, in my opinion, I haven't fished St. Lawrence, so it probably is, but in my time on St. Clair, it is probably the best 1 or 2 fisheries in North America.
From a smallmouth perspective or from
smallmouth
everything?
I mean, I can't tell you how many 5+ pound largemouth I've got in Lake St. Clair.
Yeah, the North is growing some big largemouth now. I mean, definitely.
They've fished it 8 times in bass history. 2020 was the last time there, and Bill Weidler won it with 86.7. I think that a tournament on St. Clair was one where Seth Fighter sort of made a name for himself. So I have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure he had a pretty mega sack on there and kind of propelled himself into it's a stardom on a tournament on St. Clair. But
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see St. Clair. Hopefully the weather holds up for them. You know as well as I do, that body of water gets super rough when the wind blows. So it'll be interesting to see if largemouth and smallmouth play, but I think smallmouth is going to take the tournament.
smallmouth are definitely key. The thing there though, weather. I mean, you can run up the river. There's options there. You're not stuck just fishing the lake. So, and again, Canada will be reopened. I think 2020 when they were there, you couldn't fish Canada.
Yeah.
That was COVID. So,
The COVID era.
yeah,
What's wrong, Ben?
Bring your mic a little closer, Pete.
a little far away. apparently.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Hopefully, I will see how that is. But
No, you should be good.
Wasn't coming. I don't know. That's why I went like this because I could hear you outside the headphones.
I got you.
You got to throw Michigan some love. They don't have a lot of great records with professional sports teams there between the Lions and the Pistons and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm throwing some shade on them because I'm from there originally, but KVD saved the day and taking tournaments
He
to
brought some championships to the state.
yeah, taking tournaments to the state is good for the communities and stuff like that. And it's great from a spectator perspective. I will say this though. I would rather watch the Sabine River from a spectator perspective and watch guys grind it out than watch forward-facing sonar all day long with smallmouth. That's just me, though. That's just me.
I'd rather watch a guy catch a 103-pound smallmouth than grind for 13 pounds, but I guess that's just me.
Well, the weigh-in will be a lot more exciting at St. Clair.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
2020, Canada's opened back up. It's all part of the Great Lakes. You have the opportunity. You have the opportunity to get close to a century belt there if somebody found the right fish.
That's right. They went there in 2020. I don't remember if they had changed that event schedule. You remember in 2020 they delayed a lot of the events.
Yeah, I'm not sure when they were there.
Yeah,
I have to go back and double check.
I remember when they were there. Of course, Canada was closed off, so more water for these guys to cover. Then after St. Clair, we're going to stay up north. Got Lake Champlain.
Yeah.
Yep, in August.
I've never been there before. Pete, you've been there, haven't you?
No, I haven't. I have friends and family that have fished it quite a bit, but I've never personally fished it. It's another one that's largemouth, smallmouth. They can both play a role.
Yeah.
And Canada was not in play in 2021, I don't think either. I remember watching. I don't think they were allowed to go into Canada in 2021.
No, last year was the first year that it was back open with everything. So
The bass were wearing masks.
that's right.
Anyways, so it
they
doesn't
fished,
matter.
they fished Champlain 15 times in history. 2021, like Ben just said, was the last time. And Brian Schmidt, a guy that I think gets overlooked sometimes.
Well, yeah, he. I want to say Brian runs a guide service out in that area as well. And I think I saw an interview or heard an interview with him, but he is a hammer on those bodies of water. He really is.
78.5 on Champlain.
That's going to be a really close event.
Yeah.
You look at 78 pounds of just 2 years ago. That's 15 pounds a day, just over. That means everyone's probably going to be really close together. It'll be one of those ounces will matter.
Yep.
I guess that's true for the Sabine River too, but that's ounces in a different direction.
Ounces make a huge difference in Sabine River.
But yeah, I mean, it should be a great event. They're taking off at Burlington, right? Is that where they're going?
Yeah,
Vermont?
I believe Burlington.
So it should be a great event. You're going to have guys stay up there, and then guys, run down a little ways.
It's a big lake. There's a lot of water. Like I said, there's largemouth, smallmouth.
Yeah.
The options are there. So it could go. That was one that could go to anybody.
I'll say this for those of you who are watching or listening: buy your Berkeley flatworms right now because they're going to be out of stock when those smallmouth tournaments come up.
Yeah.
Get those Maxons.
That's right. And that happened last year. Guys were struggling to get those specific baits that they were using specifically on those smallmouth fisheries, and they're going to fly off. And so we got 3 smallmouth fisheries in a row. We go from St. Clair to Champlain, and then the last stop of the season is what? St. Lawrence.
That's probably the best fishery in the U.S.
Yeah, I was going to
North
say.
America.
I mean,
right
it
now.
showed out last year, hands down. And Jay Shakirat's rookie season on the Elites, and he gets a W, and he gets a century belt.
And all smallmouth, 102.9 pounds.
Yeah.
And then Corey Johnson followed that up second place with 100.5.
Yep. So there's some big weights coming out of there. What was the month that they fished St. Lawrence last year?
It was about the same.
Was
August,
it?
Yeah.
You think we're going to see any century belts come out of St. Lawrence this year?
To have two, I'd have to say it's possible.
I mean, it's possible.
You had the entire top 10 had over 90 pounds. At St. Lawrence.
I want you to think of it this way: 4 days of fishing, right? 5 fish a day, so that's 25 total fish that you catch. No, 20 total fish. Sorry, in a tournament. 20 total fish for that tournament. Your average is 5 pounds. 5 pound smallmouth is your average. That's what he had.
Yeah.
And there was 2 of them, right? Corey Johnson had just over 100, so he was right at that average. So,
But
you were bringing 25 pound smallmouth to scales.
never done it before.
No.
But what happened last year during that tournament that you can't predict will happen this year? They had perfect weather.
Oh, that's
They
right.
had
They did.
perfect weather.
That's right.
Never
next to no wind.
next to no wind. They were able to run everywhere they wanted to go. This year, I think the weather is going to be your biggest determining factor on where they're able to catch those fish and what size fish you're going to be able
Yeah,
to
because
catch.
I think Jay and Corey both ran out of the river and into the lake, right?
Yeah, I
Into
believe
the-
so.
Into the Canadian side.
So it'll be interesting to see. The weather is going to be on any of those bodies of water up north. The weather is everything, right? So we'll see what happens, but hopefully, and my favorite for the St. Lawrence is going to be John Cox. I'd like to see, and John's done pretty well up on those smallmouth fisheries before, but I want to see somebody get out there that is your shallow water angler that everyone knows is your sight fisherman. I want to see them put a hurting on those smallies.
Hey, John could play a role having fished St. Clair
Yep.
a lot. I spent a lot of time on it. June, July, typically when we went there. I mean, I caught a ton of 5 pound largemouth in like 4 foot of water, and you can see Lake St. Clair is crystal clear. So
Yep.
depending on the winter they have, I mean, it's late July. I've seen spawning fish on St. Clair the end of June. Mm-hmm. Now, the end of July is probably late, but you're looking post-spawn. They could still be up there feeding. Like, yeah, that could play. And I was actually surprised when I did my research. St. Clair, the last time they fished that, John finished 3rd in that event. So, he does. And like you said, St. Lawrence last year, he finished well. Mm-hmm. It's going to be... that's a huge weather dependent, like you said.
Sure.
It's really hard to predict what they're going to do in the St. Lawrence. If they can get on the lake, you're going to see century belts again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, weather is always dependent no matter where you go. But when you have to get out in the big water and face that really heavy wind, offshore, right? That's going to be probably the determining factor whether or not we see maybe 100 pounds again in St. Lawrence versus high 80s, low 90s.
It depends on how many spectator boats are out there following the pros around and marking all the spots that they're on. I mean, they had perfect weather last year. Spectator boats are out there following them around. We'll see if the fish hold up in the same spots, but it should be really interesting. If the weather doesn't hold up and they don't cancel the tournament, do you think that there could be a mixture of largemouth and smallmouth in those bags?
If the weather's good?
If the weather's not good.
Oh, if the weather's not good, yeah.
Yeah.
Even the river, though, the main body of the St. Lawrence is primarily a smallmouth fishery. You'll see a few here and there largemouth, but I don't think they'll play a role.
Right. Well, it's an interesting 2023 season for the Bassmaster Elites. I definitely have some of my favorites. Do you guys do that fantasy fishing? You guys do the Bassmaster
So
fantasy
last
fishing
year I
stuff?
did like the first 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And then I just forgot about it beforehand.
Yeah.
And I'll probably do the same thing this year. I'll start out and play,
I did
play the
same
first.
thing.
Yeah.
I did good the first event because I picked John to win, and he did. But after that, it was pretty much forgotten. That was the end of that. So it's tough because that's kind of our tournament season down here, and that's when I spend the most time on the water.
Yeah.
And the way they do it, right? It's fun. I enjoy it. So Bassmaster they've got the like individual event, and then they have what's called Drain the Lake. So
Yep.
I mean, we're kind of plugging their thing here, but it's interesting. So Drain the Lake is like for each event you pick an angler, but then you can't pick them again for the rest of the season.
Yeah, you pick 6. I think 6 per event. Yeah, but you only get them once.
And then the other normal, you think fantasy fishing, they got the anglers divided up in various groups, and so you pick, I forget, 1 or 2 out of each group, and then you go from there. So
We might need the OneCast league.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should.
Maybe not this year, but it's something to talk about. That would be maybe get a little prize pack together. Yeah, we'll talk about that. But
Yeah. So from the audience, definitely cast your comments about how many century belts do you think we're going to have for the season? Who are some of your top favorites, both from the old crowd in the elites and then some of the rookies that are getting ready to join this year? We're curious to see. Hopefully there's some century belts. Hopefully there's some records broken. And hopefully some of these rookies do really well this year. I mean, the rookies that are coming, some of them that are coming back, they're not rookies. They're just back on the Elite Series, right? So it'll be interesting to see if they're a player. I'm excited for the 2023 season. I'm excited to watch it on my boat while I'm fishing. That's for sure.
I do the same thing.
so we went through the entire season. Favorite for Angler of the Year, Trey?
My favorite, who I want to win, is I would like to see Brandon Lester win. I'd like to see him win. He's good at everything. He was second in AOI for last year. It'd be nice to see him host that most consistent Angler of the Year trophy.
Ben?
I don't know yet.
No, you gotta pick somebody.
I gotta pick.
We'll revisit it after the first couple events, but right now, based on the schedule that we've seen,
So we got 3 big smallmouth lakes. Because I think about last year, they had the Northern Swing, but the last one, the Mississippi River, is pretty much a largemouth game.
Mm-hmm.
So that changes my calculation a little bit. So I'm probably maybe one of the Johnson brothers, right? One of the Northern guys.
They're always in the running.
yep.
Yeah. One of those. I'm not going to pick one.
Yeah.
But
No,
toss
that's
a
fair.
coin. But probably one of the Johnson brothers, I think, will be, if not, right, the Angler of the Year are probably, within the top 5. I think they'll be very consistent
Yeah.
throughout the year.
Yeah, I'm going with a guy you mentioned earlier. I think Seth Fighter.
Yeah.
I think it sets up. There's a lot of shallow water fisheries. There's a lot of offshore fisheries. He's done well in those grindy type tournaments in the past. Like Sabine's going to be Lay Lake. I think it's going to be a little bit like that.
Mm-hmm.
The weights are a little bit higher than Sabine, but I don't know that it's going to be a huge bunch of fish.
I mean, the first half of the year, if someone like Canterbury or Erie really does really well.
I mean, you look at the first 4 events. You have Okeechobee, you have Seminole,
Yeah.
Then you go to Murray, and then you go to Santee. Somebody like Cox could pull ahead. Somebody like Keith Poche. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting year in 2023. I really like the schedule this year, other than stop number 6.
Do we know what boat Poche's running this year?
I think he's going to run that 21-foot Gator Tracks boat. I really do. I don't think he's going to.
I think he'll go up to a bigger.
Yeah, I think he's going to run that other aluminum boat he has.
If he somehow picked his 18-foot, with St. Clair, Champaign, Lawrence, and even Murray, right, is probably an offshore. Yeah, he might put himself out of position.
No, he'll probably run that 21 footer.
The only thing that would be crazier than anything is if Polinack wins a 3rd AOI, because that would be 3 in a row, correct? No.
Fighter won the year before.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
But it would be 3 AOIs for Polinack. That would be 2 in a row for him, right? If he wins. So that'll be interesting to see. I think you're going to see a lot of the top dogs that everyone talks about all the time in the runnings, but I want to see some underdogs. I'm not even underdogs, but I just want to see somebody different kind of pull something.
I mean, last year Jay won as a rookie.
That was amazing.
Century boat. I remember Corey took second at. I mean, not Corey. Cody Huff took second at. Was it one in Tennessee Rivers? It wasn't Gunnersville, was it? Where'd they go?
They go to Pickwick.
I think it was Pickwick. Yeah.
I think it was.
So we'll see.
It's gonna be a good year.
Absolutely.
Drop a comment down below. Let us know who you think early on Angler of the Year. We'll come back to this after the first couple events and see how guys are fishing and how those Florida events play out. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe.
Absolutely.
If you're on iTunes, podcast, whatever all those are, leave us a review. Let us know what you like, what we could do better. And I don't have anything else. How about any of you guys?
We'll see you in the next one. We'll be talking about the MLF BPT schedule.
Here we go.
And this is it'll be our last lay down of the events for the year. And then we'll get into more conversations about what's happening in the industry, what's going on, et cetera. So this is just us laying out what we think, the year. Then we'll, at the end of the year, we'll come back and we'll see how stupid we were when we're talking about this, right?
That's right.
Because you never know how it's going to end up. But hopefully you guys enjoy it. And we'll see you next time. Get out in the water. And remember, a lunker is one cast away.
That's right.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.